Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Well, ready for another pop quiz? Probably each one of the large and committed group of individuals who share in this weekly posting will have a unique answer to the following question. What is the most interesting, world-changing event that you have experienced during your lifetime? The most interesting, world-changing event that you have experienced during your lifetime. Please note that there are two key phrases here. Most interesting, not necessarily most important, and in your lifetime, not throughout the entire sweep of world history. So take a second. What would you suggest as your answer? So while you are pondering, let me add to your consideration something that happened this week on July 14th, to be precise. July 14, 2022, the world has added another biblical commentator who aspires to stand alongside Rashi, Ibn Ezra, Ramban, Sforno, and a host of others. Now this is really interesting. President Biden was in Israel. He was pledging America's forever close relationship with Israel while he accepted the Israeli Presidential Medal of Honor. This is a very, very good thing. Somebody on his speech-writing staff not only is probably Jewish, but was knowledgeable enough to be aware that this week's Torah portion is called BALAK, beginning with Numbers 22:2. Now, so President Biden, borrowing from this week's Sedra, stated boldly and firmly that Israel, quote, is a nation that will never dwell alone, because as long as there's the United States, you will never be alone, close quote. Now, as the president is wont to say, now here's the thing. Numbers 23:9 in our Sedra states, as part of a blessing and an expression of approbation, there is a people that dwells apart, not to be reckoned among the nations. The pshat, the unadorned meaning of the verse is, it's a good thing for the people Israel not to be just another people among the nations, to dwell alone. President Biden, in his valiant effort to stand alongside Rashi, views the pshat as not accurate. What is meant in the Torah is that as long as the United States stands alongside of Israel, the state, not the people, then Israel, the state, will never be alone. Because obviously, standing alone is a dangerous situation for any nation to be in. A new Rashi has arisen in our day. Setting aside the president's very welcome expression of wholehearted support for Israel, the state, let's dig down a little bit to examine what the gentile prophet and seer Balaam, by the way, the same Balaam who would go on to state, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael, how goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. What did Balaam mean when he said with awe and praise that the people Israel is an am levadad yishkon, a people that dwells apart? Lord Dr. Rabbi Sachs immediately sees how problematic the actual Torah text is. He states, quote, if you define yourself as the people that dwells alone, you're likely to find yourself alone. That is not a safe place to be. Okay, Rabbi Sachs, got it. Sachs points out that the Talmud harbors great animosity toward Balaam. It states that every blessing that Balaam utters toward Israel, with the exception of the Matovu, turns into a curse. So Balaam was just outwardly blessing Israel while twisting his own words around so as to disguise the fact that he was actually cursing them. This would make, follow this, President Biden's parshanut accurate. It is a curse to be standing alone. Being levad, being alone, is not something to aspire toward. When it states in Genesis, Lo tov hayot adam levado, levado, it is not good for anyone to be alone. That point is abundantly clear. The author of the book of Lamentations cries out in pain that they see Jerusalem alone, abandoned, a city that was once filled with people. But Sachs is correct when he states that the post-Talmudic commentators saw that being levad, alone, is a very good thing. It means that every other nation will arise, prosper, and then fall off of the pages of history. Not so the Jews. We are levad. We are indestructible. We will never assimilate, never losing our core values as we somehow would get absorbed into common humanity. That's not our future. That's not our destiny. We stand alone against and outside of history. Standing alone is our destiny. So, two positions. Is standing alone a good thing for us, or is it a dangerous thing? Theodor Herzl, along with generations of Zionist leaders, felt that our being different, our standing apart, levad, from everyone else, inevitably leads to anti-Semitism. Human beings tend both to fear and to hate the other. Once we get a nation state of our own, we will be normalized, Herzl. We will be a nation among nations, no longer wandering Jews, no longer homeless, no longer standing alone. We won't stick out. We won't trouble anyone else. We will not be levad, and thus we will no longer be a target for senseless hatred. This really is complicated. Because when the state of Israel emerged and was accepted into the United Nations, we were seemingly normalized. Our flag flew alongside of other flags. We have ambassadors. We participate in international conferences. But the expected change in the world didn't happen. Anti-Semitism, hatred of the Jew, has not only not disappeared, but in our own day, it is rising dramatically. So Lord Sachs does a waffle. That's what it's called when you hold on to both sides of an issue, a waffle. He grants, listen to this, that Balaam's words were not necessarily well intended. On the one hand, Sachs, it is part of the historic mission of the Jews to be different, to stand alone. We have a core set of values that are rooted in the Torah, honed by 2,500 years of life experience, and shared with the world for the benefit of all. Sachs, we have been countercultural from the day that Abram and Sarai left home. We have been countercultural from the day that the prophets of Israel raised their voices to condemn injustice of all kinds. We have been countercultural from the day that we decided Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim, that free and open debate about who we really are leads us closer to understanding what it is that we believe God demands of us. On the other hand, let's be clear. The purpose for defending our being different to standing alone is to bring Torah to the rest of the world. And that we cannot do alone. For that, we need friends. For that, we need allies. We need a world to understand us. We need America's friendship. We need interfaith partners. Balaam's blessing might very well be understood to mean we must never surrender our uniqueness, but the fulfillment of Jewish destiny can only be found in our not being alone. So, thank you, Balaam. Thank you, Lord Sachs. Thank you, President Biden and your speechwriter. President Biden, our new Rashi. Shabbat Shalom. See you next week, my friends. See you next week.